India's pandemic nightmare refuses to end. Deadly shortages continue. Hoarding and black marketing of essential supplies is making matters worse. Is a peak in sight? What do the numbers say? Is a national lockdown inevitable? Tonight we'll discuss 5 big developments, 5 things that you should know about what's happening in India. First of all, the numbers. They're not getting better. The deadly second wave gripped the country in April. That's last month. In 1 month, nearly 7 million people were infected in India. More than 48,000 people have died. And the virus is still spreading. In the last 24 hours, India has again reported more than 300,000 new cases. On Saturday, over 400,000 people had tested positive. That's the highest ever, 4 lakh people. For 12 straight days now, India has been adding more than 300,000 cases every day, new cases. And this takes India's total caseload close to 20 million now. India has more than 3.4 million active cases as we speak. 3.4 million cases who are positive right now. They represent over 17% of the caseload. 10 states and union territories account for more than 73% of the new cases in the country. More than 16 million people have recovered. Over 300,000 people tested negative in the last 24 hours. The recovery rate remains steady at more than 80%, but the number of casualties is alarmingly high. More than 3,400 people died in the last 24 hours. Is this the worst case scenario? Scientists say it could be. And that's point number 2 that we want to discuss tonight. New infections could peak this week, says who? A team of scientists that is advising the government of India. They've come up with a mathematical model to make predictions. And they're trying to answer the question that all of us have been asking. When will this surge end? Now, these scientists believe that the curve will touch its peak this week, between the 3rd and the 5th of May. Today is the 3rd of May. So if we go by this assessment, the fall in cases has already begun. On what basis do they say this? The fall in positivity rate. What is that? It's basically the percentage of all Wuhan virus tests that have come back positive. So for instance, 100 people test and 30 of them are positive, then the positivity rate is 30%. Right now, India's positivity rate is 21.19%. On Sunday, it was 21.25%. So there's a very, very slight dip. The difference is barely 0.06%. Does that even count? Does it even dent the surge? Last year, the WHO had recommended that positivity levels must remain at 5% or less for at least 14 days for governments to unlock and for people to resume their lives. India's positivity rate is well over 20%. So we have a long way to go before we can say that things are under control. In fact, the road ahead does not look easy for India because pharma companies now say that there is going to be a drug shortage going forward. That's because the cases have exploded, but the supply remains limited. At least 2 reports say that the prices of active pharmaceutical ingredients or API have shot up. What is API? Basically raw materials that are used to make medicines. Now, the price of these raw materials have gone up by anywhere between 30 to 200%. What explains this rise? 2 things. 1, the rising demand has led to hoarding. And 2, supply disruptions from China. Remember, India still imports 70% of its pharmaceutical raw materials from China. Last week, China's state-run Sichuan Airlines suspended 11 cargo flights to India. Now, their cargo included raw materials for pharma companies. China insists that there is no disruption in exports to India, but this airline is yet to announce a schedule for its India flights. In other words, there is a disruption. And that means that India is staring at a drug shortage. What about vaccines? They're still locked up in patents. Last week, we told you how countries like the US and the UK were blocking India's bid to get patent waivers. Today, we can tell you they still haven't changed their minds. The United States remains non-committal on a patent waiver. Today, the government was asked about it. It said that America is still discussing all options with its partners. That's neither yes nor no. No mention of the waiver. While this battle continues, India's immediate concern is to control the caseload. How do you break the chain of infection? Is another lockdown the only option before India? Guess who is making this recommendation now? India's leading industry body, the CII. The Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, its president Uday Kotak endorsed another lockdown today. He said, and I'm quoting, the CII calls for maximal measures at the national level, including curtailing economic activity to reduce suffering. Already, at least 11 states and union territories in India have imposed some form of restrictions, but there's no word yet on a national lockdown. And it's a tough decision to make. Lives and livelihoods, after all, must both be protected. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.